welcome to Traditional Painting the Digital Way. This is where I use digital painting apps to teach traditional painting techniques. This is part 3 and the final part of my Yule Goat series. And in this video we're going to go ahead and add the final color and also do the final inking to the painting. If you want to follow along traditionally, check out part 1 in this series where I have a list suggestions of some of the materials that you might like to use to create this picture. We're going to be using Infinite Painter for Android, and here I'm just finishing up the toys that are in Santa's sack here, and I just wanted to make bright pretty colors so that they would show out in the picture really well. And I'm using the brush marker to go ahead and color this bouncy ball a purple color, and I just wanted to give it a little bit of some polka dots on it, and I added a little bit of some highlight there. And you can do this with a jelly roll pen or something like that, and it will show up if you're using alcohol markers or if you've used watercolor and you're working traditionally. And then here I'm just kind of adding some more colors to the packages. I wanted some bright colors. Since I made one of the packages blue, I'm adding some orange there, and that just, those colors complement each other. And I wanted to add some bright pretty bows to them as well, and so I went ahead and added a turquoise color there because it's really bright and pretty. And you can just go ahead and add all kinds of different toys in here. I just thought I would add some sort of generic toys that are kind of traditionally shown in Santa Claus's sack. So here I added a bright red present and put a green bow on the top. And then I'm adding a yellow present next to his head there and adding a blue bow on it, just to kind of make it show up and look really bright and pretty there. And then I did kind of a little bitty teddy bear there, and so I just want to go ahead and add some generic brown color, a kind of a, not a dark brown, but just kind of a medium brown so that you can see that he's a teddy bear. And you can put any kind of animal there. You can put a doll, you can put animal, you can put any kind of toy that you want on here. It doesn't have to be a teddy bear. You can put a cat or a mouse or a dog or something like that, but teddy bears are traditional, so I just went ahead and put a teddy bear there, and I'm doing his eyes and his mouth there, and I added a little bit of some light color to his ears and his paws and his stomach there, just to kind of make it show up better and to give it that more traditional teddy bear look. And then I had a football next to him, and at first I was going to make it brown, and then I decided no, kids' footballs are all different colors, and I thought it would be better if I just made it a really bright blue color, and I decided that would show up a little bit better in the painting. So I went ahead and gave a yellow stripe on it too, just to make it look really bright and cheerful. But you can make it any color that you want, because all those kids' footballs that they have, the little Nerf ones, they're all kinds of different colors. And then here I was going ahead and adding a little bit of some highlights to Santa's suit to give it kind of wrinkles and things. And I was using a really light pink and kind of a light white color, and you can use a jelly roll pen if you're doing this traditionally to add some of the final highlights here, or you can even use acrylic marker for that. And I wanted to add a little bit more color to his tail there, just to give it kind of a little bit of some texture. And then I wanted to give Santa some rosy red cheeks, because that's sort of the way he's portrayed. And I was using the airbrush to go ahead and do that. And it also leaves a really soft edge there so that it looks sort of a little bit more natural, even though this is kind of a cartoon. And then I was working on his nose a little bit, just adjusting his nose a little bit better, making it a little bit more cartoony and upturned there. And I wanted to work on his mouth a little and add just a touch of pink in there to show his tongue maybe, or his lips or whatever, just kind of an indication of a mouth there. And then I went back, and on this bottom layer there, I'm sort of erasing some of the pencil marks. And you can kind of do this, but I would suggest erasing them first. When you're doing this traditionally, erase all your stray marks first, and then go ahead and do in the coloring, because it's easier to do that way. Now, I think you can erase a little bit maybe with some of markers, but I'm not sure that you can with the alcohol marker. So it would be best to get that done first before you add your color. And now I'm going to go ahead and do the ink outline. And you can use sort of a waterproof pen for this if you want to, or just a fine liner that won't run, and you go ahead and use the fine liners at the very last. And I'm using a dark red color to outline his suit, and to just kind of give it a little bit of some wrinkle look there and some texture on his suit. And then I wanted to outline his face and the trim on his clothes with kind of a brownish color. So I'm using sort of a light brown. And there's all kinds of colors of fine liners now. So you can use Faber-Castell pens, or you can use Sakura pens. There's all kinds of different ones now, and they have different colors. You could even use Jelly Roll if you wanted to, but it's kind of a shiny ink. So if you wanted it to look more of a alcohol type of ink, or something that doesn't look quite as shiny, you would use these other kinds of inks that come with the Faber-Castell pens and the Sakura pens, or some of those kind. And here I'm just adding some black to go ahead and make his eyes show up and outline his mouth. Also his boots, work on that a little, and I'm adding a little bit of some gray to give it the look of his boots shining, give him a little bit of a three-dimensional look. And Jelly Roll pens would probably work best for that. Jelly Roll pens are really good for highlights and that kind of thing. And you can color the whole picture with them, but some of them are opaque and some of them are not, I'm finding out. I'm sort of testing them out. They're a new medium for me, but they are nice for doing highlights. And then I'm taking a green ink here and adding a little bit of some wrinkles to Santa's toy sack, and also adding a little bit of some shadow on the bottom there to give it the shadowed look, and then back to some brown ink for the outlining on the goat. And you can use a little bit darker brown if you want to for that. And just working on sort of refining his hooves and the edge of his legs. And it doesn't matter if it's not real smooth, because you kind of want to give it a furry look for the goat. So you might put a little bit of a broken line, especially on his beard there and kind of around his muzzle. And I'm just working on the mouth there and refining the nose and drawing it in very clearly, and then just working around the ears and putting in all the details for that. And I went ahead and used yellow marker for his eyes, because goat's eyes are kind of yellowish amber looking. So I went ahead and did that. And you can be funny though if you want to, and make him have blue eyes or green or just whatever color that you want. But I just kind of went with the traditional color that goats and sheep's eyes are. And I'm refining the tuft of hair on his head, and then I'm doing the horns as well, putting the shape of the horns, and you want to make those look rounded, so put the curved lines on his horns there, and adding a little bit of some detail to make it look like he has fur around on his face, but not putting a lot because you don't want to take away from the expression on his face and make it look like it has too many lines, because we're keeping this sort of as a cartoon drawing instead of a real detailed ink painting like the original over there that is of Father Christmas there. It's a really detailed pen and ink, but we just kind of want a cartoony look for our goat. And then here I'm using a little bit of the watercolor brushes to kind of give a little shading to the goat there, adding a little bit of some dark along the back of the goat where Santa Claus is sitting on him to give it kind of a little bit of some shadow. And then I wanted to put some dark blue to give a little bit of some shadow underneath his feet, and just make it like they might be kind of walking on ice, or they're in the frozen snow there. So I wanted it a blue color. And I was playing around with the different kinds of inks. There's a sort of a broken ink look there, and splattery ink. And I went ahead and did a little bit of some outlining on the toys in Santa's sack as well. And I'm using kind of a black for that, just so that they'll show up better. And so I'm just kind of working on making the details to the presents, outlining the bows a little bit better, making them show up. And I was working with different kinds of brushes, just trying to see what all these new brushes are that we've had added to Infinite Painter, and what all they do, and how they work. So this was kind of an experimental painting, because I was using a lot of these new brushes, and especially the pens and the marker brushes. So I was trying all different kinds here, and some of them were too thick. I decided that one was way too thick, so I went to another one just to see if it was a little bit thinner. And there's some of them that are like dip pens, and this one was kind of like a dip pen, and it does give it a thick and thin line there that's kind of neat. So I was trying it out just to see what it would do, and working on the packages so that if you messed up too much there, it wouldn't show up too much. And then I was working a little bit more on his hat and trying to get a little bit more detail going. And then I decided to sort of smooth out the shadow underneath them there. And you can do that if you're working along traditionally. You can run a little bit of some gouache or some watercolor over the top of that, and it will actually smooth out some of your ink lines. And if the ink is water soluble, then it will create sort of a watercolor ink type wash. And then I was just kind of adding a little bit of some detail to the snow, and making kind of a little bit of a horizon line just for some reference to show that they're walking along in the snow there. But I didn't want to put a big background, so I'm just kind of making indistinct blobs and shapes in the background, like there might be some trees or some bushes or something, but I don't want it to look real detailed because I just want the focus to be on Santa Claus and the goat. And I added a little bit more of some darker gray to the back of his head just to create some more shadows. And I'm using some of the new watercolor brushes to add that, just to give it a kind of a textured look there, and to make a little bit of some shadow. And some of these lines keep showing up, which is probably a little bit of a glitch in Infinite Painter, but fortunately you can go back and find out what layers they're on and erase those. And so I decided to add a little bit more fur to his coat there, and I went back and added a little bit of white, and then went back over it with the pen. And to do this traditionally, you would probably have to get some gouache, some acrylic gouache or something, to widen that out a little bit and go over the pin, but it can also be done traditionally. And there I was erasing that strange line that popped up. Sometimes it does. There's a funny little glitch there. And then here I wanted to go ahead and make the pom-pom on his hat just a little bit bigger, so I added a little bit more of some white there, and you can do this with gouache if you're following traditionally and you want to do some corrections. And just added a few little more details in brown there to his hat, and then I decided to call it good. So I went ahead and picked a pen that would show my signature and went ahead and signed it. And so there's Santa Claus riding a goat, and I just thought that that was a really cute idea, and I wanted to do it. So that was sort of my Christmas card for this year, is Santa Claus on a goat. So I saved it before anything happened to it. So thanks everybody for watching, and thank you so much for your support. If you have any questions or any suggestions about things that you want to see, go ahead and leave them in the comments down below, and I will catch you later.